Are we live? We are live. Live from the Alaska State Capitol building in Juneau, Alaska. Today is Monday, February 10th, 2020. It's 6:30. We're on the ground floor in room 30. I'm Shelley Hughes, Senator for District F. That's for fine folks, friends, and family. And with me is a fine folk from Chugiak, Buddy Witt, my chief of staff. He's usually a regular fixture. We might surprise you sometime and change out Buddy with someone else.
Oh, thank God. From your lips to God's ears.
I just want to say I appreciate my staff because, most staff in this building have gone home, and here we are. We are still here on a Monday night. But it's important for us to come live to you. My motto of telling it like it is, hashtag telling it like it is. So we're going to give you the straight scoop. Encourage you to like the video and share it, please, so we can get others participating. It is important, as I have said last week, for Alaskans to be engaged at this point in time. And I'll repeat what I did last year because we still haven't come up with a solution. Very frustrating, actually, but we have a $1.5 billion fiscal gap. And the only solution that is on the table, really, is taking the people's PFD and taxing the people of Alaska, putting it all on the backs of Alaskans. So we will continue to talk about that as we move forward while you're liking and sharing the video, so we get your questions rolling. And I just want to, I actually have a family member, so any of you that are praying people, I have a family member who's in surgery right now at the Juneau hospital, my stepfather. And so I was just at the hospital. I'm going to zoom back out there here in a little bit. I think he's going to do well, but I appreciate those. A lot of you maybe have met him. We call him Papa Gary. And but while I was driving back from the hospital, I was thinking about the people whose preference is to fill the gap with the people's PFD. And they talk about they need that PFD to pay for government services. But then if there's any discussion of taxes, then the talk is that taxes would be needed to pay for the people's PFD. So on the one hand, they talk about using the PFD for government services, but they don't talk about taxes being used for government services. They talk about taxes being used to pay for the PFD. So I just wanted to point out, it's how someone wordsmiths someone. There's a bias to that, of course. So if you're taking the PFD because you need it for government services, but by golly, we don't want to have, for instance, an income tax, because then we'd be collecting taxes to pay for the PFD. So really, am I making any sense here? You're giving this a look like,
I'm trying.
I'm just trying. It's the perspective. To me, we have a fiscal gap. The PFD is it is a dividend that was decided back a number of decades ago in lieu of the fact that we don't have subsurface mineral rights individually. And but all of a sudden, if we take the PFD, we got to have that to pay for government services. But oh my goodness, we don't want to have to tax people to pay the PFD. The tax, actually, to me, taxes are for services. It's not for the PFD. The PFD is the PFD. It's a dividend, and it is, an arrangement that was made decades ago. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
I see where you're
not
coming
so sure. It's just the language that's being used.
I could still, I try to see both sides, and I play devil's advocate a lot, so
And I actually,
we'll just leave it there.
I actually can play devil's advocate on that one too. I just thought it was an interesting way it's being presented. So do we have folks who have
You do.
watching?
We have Bill Booth, who's watching.
Hey Bill.
Leah
Good evening.
Leah Kincaid.
Hey Leah, how are you? Miss you.
Butch Goodnow, he says here from
Hey,
Delta
Butch.
Junction.
Thank you for joining us, Butch. We welcome folks from outside of District F2, Alaskans statewide.
Lisa Hart is watching.
Lisa's actually our videographer today.
Come say hi, Lisa.
Come around the corner, say hello.
Just be careful, don't bump the
Yeah,
camera.
I'm not going to bump the camera. Hello, everybody.
You might have to come over
Okay.
just a
No, we
little
got
bit
you.
more.
Hello,
We had technical difficulties last week, and actually we got it off without a hitch. So this is great. So
Katie Boats is watching.
hey, Katie.
Leah Kincaid says praying for Papa Gary.
Thank you. Yeah, Leah, you've met him before. So do we have anybody bringing up any topics?
I want to go through a few more names if you don't mind.
Sure.
Jackie Williams is watching.
Hi, Jackie.
Kaylee Gifford is watching.
Hey, Kaylee.
Jeff Vaudril is watching.
Hi, Jeff.
Dwayne Spillici is watching.
Wayne, good to have you.
Brian Fisher is watching. Jesse Sumner is watching.
Hey, Jesse. Okay, everybody, like and share the video. That's how we get more Alaskans engaged. As I've talked about before last week at quite a bit, this gap and the solution, only putting it on the backs of Alaskans, is something every Alaskan needs to know. And I've said I hope that the sleeping giant wakes up. I hope that the silent majority rises up. But it won't happen unless people like you are starting to engage your friends, your neighbors, your co-workers, your family members. And one of the ways you can do that is by sharing the video.
Katie Boats offered. A lot of times I get to play. Not only do I play devil's advocate, but play good cop, bad cop. So I get to do a little bit of policing here.
Okay, go for it.
I just want to let everyone know because a question was asked, and then a couple of people commented on kind of not so nice comments in response to the question. I just want to say, put an end to that right now. Every question is welcome. Every opinion is as long as it's given respectfully is welcome. We do not silence people or criticize them for asking anything. I'll just put that
Correct.
out there. Okay?
There is a policy, and you can read about it on our page if someone is dominating and name calling and things like that. But as far as questions, everything's welcome.
And you got to understand too, we are in a tough financial crisis in the state, and if someone has an idea, share it. There is no stupid ideas, there are no dumb ideas, there are no dumb questions, and everything is worth considering. Katie Boats says, "Good evening, Senator Shelley Hughes. What do you think of just allowing adults 18 years and older to get the PFD and not children? Would that help?"
Well, mathematically it would help, but I don't think it's the right thing to do, and I think that it would not be agreeable to Alaskans, nor probably in this building. So mathematically, a lot of things mathematically work, but whether they'd be accepted, yeah.
Okay, and let's see. Herman Bacaro is with us.
Oh, hi, Herman.
He
Hope
says
you're doing well.
he lives in your district. He says,
does.
"Good evening, Senator. I haven't been able to keep track of everything, but I wanted to know your thoughts about the proposal exchanging PFDs for parcels of land issued out by the state. Can you give any insight into the idea?" And I'll also add, we have not seen that bill yet. It has not been introduced. So seeing how it actually, what it looks like statutorily or in language, we don't know yet. So we're just talking about the concept.
It's a concept that the governor brought up in the State of the State. We did ask if the governor's office had a white paper or something that just summarized what the concept a little bit more, besides the one or two lines that were mentioned in the speech. And I don't know if Dawson's received that yet, but if we have something like that, we'll share it next week. The concept is some of the public lands that the state holds would become available for sale to Alaskans, and they could use their PFD. And I believe the PFD would have twice the value of the PFD. Is that what I remember?
I'd have to go back.
There's something. So we'll watch for those details. But thanks for the question, Herman. We're waiting on that and curious to what it will look like.
Angie Steffel is watching. Our
Hey,
friend
Angie.
from another office. Dee Caranda is watching.
Good evening, Dee.
Dee says the PFD was never a budget item.
That's right. It wasn't until recently.
Polita Richard is here. He says hello and that he's shared.
Thank you. Very good. You've got a good reach, so we appreciate you sharing it.
Stephanie Nowers is watching. Jim Sterling is watching. Earl and Karen Lackey are watching.
Karen, Earl, look. Is it centered? Is it showing up? So my friend Karen, she's a former Colony High School teacher, had my children in school. She stitched this up for me, and it's very meaningful. Thank you, Karen, and hello to you this evening, Earl. And Stephanie Nowers, it looks like we have 2 Matsubara Assembly members online. Jesse Sumner is a Matsubara Assembly, and so is Stephanie. So welcome.
Amy Bushnell is watching.
Oh, Amy, we missed you here in this office. Amy is now in Senator Coghill's office. We are grateful that she is not out on the street and that she has a job, but we do definitely miss her. And I just want to say, losing staff like that when we have a district as large as we have, the data that we receive through the university, it's not the most current. I mean, it may be updated with the census, but with what we received in January, we have the highest population in Senate District F of all 20 districts, and we happen to have very engaged constituency as well. So it makes things really busy. So we appreciate your patience. We're doing our best to keep up with things. Having fewer staff, it makes it more challenging, but we're trying.
We're supposed to respond to emails? I'm kidding. That's a joke. I'm just a joke.
I will say, if you need a definite response back, your best bet's probably to call the office and speak to a live person. And you can always ask the staff to write something down and put it in front of my nose, and I can even give a response back where they can call back. So sometimes I'm late at night, I'm reading through emails, and I'm hearing what your positions are and such. Don't always have time to respond to everyone, but if you do specifically have a question or need feedback from me, then you probably best bet is to call, which we will type that phone number in the comments, but I'll say it right now. It is 907-465-3743. 465-3743.
Will you type that in the comments, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
And it's okay. So on that note, Dawson Mann is also watching.
Hey, Dawson.
Anthony. Amy had this comment: "Love the matching purple." And this is not purple. This is lavender.
We are wearing lavender.
I did not know that. We did not plan this.
We didn't, and you know what the funny thing is, I don't know that I've ever owned or worn anything lavender in my life.
I know for a fact I haven't.
And so we're debuting lavender, so let us know how you think it
Take it out and burn it. Joe Schlanger is watching.
Hey, Joe.
James Squires is watching.
Hey, James. We've got a couple people up in the Delta area. Welcome.
LD Howard is watching.
All right. So, want to talk today. We had a bill that was up for a hearing. It was SB 171. That is industrial hemp. We passed a bill a couple of years ago to pull it out from under the marijuana, the criminal statutes, and so it could be a crop in Alaska. And there was an update at the congressional level of the Farm Bill 2018, so we had to update things, and thank you, Buddy, for presenting it before the Senate Resources Committee, where it sounds like there may be a few little tweaks, and we hope to get that bill to the floor. It has to pass in order for the hemp, for the ability for there to be hemp grown and manufactured in our state after October 1st of this year, right?
October 31st of this year. We have to have the statutory changes made and the regulations approved by the USDA, which the regulations are already ready to go. The Division of Agriculture and Rob Carter have done a great job vetting those, putting them together. I think we'll probably have one of the best programs in the United States based upon what I'm hearing. We just have to get the legislation fixed correctly and get it done. And I think there's a lot of support in the building to get that done quickly. So,
and the possibilities with hemp, they're a bit unknown, but we do know that Canada is the second largest producer in the world after China. Canada, of course, has a climate similar to ours, so we think there's tremendous potential. Those at the Division of Ag are pretty doggone excited about the potential and the interest. I think out of any particular crop, they've received more inquiries about hemp than anything else. So there are a lot of folks out there waiting. The good news is the Farm Bill 2018 changed it so it doesn't have to be a pilot project per se, but it can be ongoing. So that's good news. We also have a bill up tomorrow, SB 81. And do you remember the bill title?
An act relating to telephone and relating to cooperatives.
Yeah, telephone
and electrical cooperatives.
Yeah, it was kind of a funny story. I was chatting with folks from MTA, Matanuska Telephone Association, and they had materials in a print on. I think I saw the words Matanuska Telephone Association. I thought, it's kind of funny you're called Telephone Association, because that's very little of what you do these days. It's more about technology and telecommunications. And they said, funny you said that. We've got a bill. Would you like to carry it? And so it's modernizing our co-ops, and there are a number of them around the state, allowing them to use the services that they provide to us to conduct business. So pretty simple bill, pretty straightforward, non-controversial, and that bill will be up tomorrow.
We always try to avoid the word simple bill.
And Dawson's watching. He's been working on that bill, doing a great job, and he will have his chance to present that in the Labor and Commerce Committee tomorrow. At what time is that?
1:30.
1:30. Senator Cliff Bishop is the chair, and we look forward to that hearing.
We got a lot of comments to catch up on.
Sure.
If I could. James Squires says, hello. Tim Robinson has a comment. He says, I believe the PFD for minors should be set aside for them in a trust, just like an insurance settlement is set aside. Too much selfishness out there.
Interesting, a lot of families do that. There's been another idea that got floated, because if you continued with the original formula, for instance, it would grow quite large, and so there was some talk about how you could set some of it aside even for people after they reach a certain age. We each have our accounts, and then they'd be able to access it in retirement, that kind of thing. But those were just ideas being floated. There's nothing concrete happening along those lines.
I'm going to come back to that comment in a little bit. Beth Whitmore is watching. Emily.
Hi, Beth. We enjoyed seeing Beth last week with the Key Coalition. Had some wonderful meetings with some of the intellectually and developmentally disabled folks in our state, who I believe are the truly vulnerable. I wrote a post on Saturday or Sunday about that, because one of the things the Key Coalition members impressed on me is how their services have declined since we expanded Medicaid to include able-bodied working age adults. And I thought that was interesting, because when former Governor Walker proposed expanding Medicaid, I warned and was concerned that the two groups that might bear the brunt of it were our senior citizens and our intellectually and developmentally disabled, and that is exactly what's happened. The seniors end up going to the back of the line because Medicare doesn't pay as well as Medicaid for their health care providers. And now we're hearing, with the state's fiscal challenges and the limited amount of state dollars that are needed to match federal, that the services for some of the people are truly, truly vulnerable have been reduced. And that bothers me.
Mm-hmm. I
don't think that's right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we got a lot to get to.
Okay.
I'm kind of try to keep us on track. I'm going to come back to that. So Emily Florian says, hi, buddy, and Senator Hughes. Thanks for going live. Jonathan Gurin says, can we get a vote to end the binding caucus? I don't, there's not really a way for the public to vote on it.
No, there are statutes that govern what a legislator, for instance, is allowed to do during, or a candidate is allowed to do during election cycle. A candidate cannot accept support or contribution in exchange to commit to voting for something specifically. And so if that's not allowed during the campaign cycle, doesn't seem like that concept should be allowed once someone is elected. So it could be something that could be added to our ethics laws. Of course, you'd have to have the support for it. There are states that have gotten rid of it. In some states, my understanding, it's even been challenged and found to be unconstitutional. But I know there's some people in this building that disagree with me, but I believe it's actually very un-American. I don't think I've had people across the political spectrum, from the left to the right and all the way to the middle. Just there's something fundamentally wrong to have people in your district send you to Juneau to vote on their behalf, and you're promising ahead of time to vote a specific way, without having seen the bill. So that just doesn't seem right to anyone I've spoken with. It works for getting a budget passed. I get it. I get that part. But it doesn't seem like something in a constitutional representative republic that should be happening.
Okay. Rachel Petro is watching.
Hi, Rachel.
Casey Elliott is watching.
Hey, Casey.
Candy Miller is watching.
Hi, Candy. I just want to mention too, for those of you who are out there aware, we have SJR 13, which is a constitutional amendment, which would allow us to do things regarding the unborn, all the way to what the federal government allows at this point, and would pave the way to really save babies in the womb. And I will just say, we could maybe do a Facebook Live on just this subject at some point. I don't know, there's so many things going on, but a lot of people say, you're trying to control a woman's body, or it's, you're just being religious or whatever. But for me, it's a very, very personal experience, because I went through, a real struggle, and I've had to share it with my son, because, and I realized I had a baby, a live baby inside of me, and I just believe that, it's killing a baby, and it is wrong. And I can have people push, the woman needs to have right to control whatever, but I'm sorry, women want to have their rights. Well, I say, what about the littlest women? The littlest women are those baby girls in the womb. Do they not have a right to live and breathe? And so I am pretty adamant about that. And I believe someday, as I said, I probably say it a lot, that someday we will look back on abortion like we look at slavery. How could we allow such a barbaric practice in what we consider a civil society? And I believe someday America will be in that spot. And I'm going to fight to save babies the best I can. We did receive 3 committee referrals. We're working to get a hearing. Our first referral hearing will be in Health and Social Services, the next will be in Judiciary, and the final will be in the Finance Committee. We hope to be able to get it on the floor. It's a little questionable based on the makeup of certain committees what will happen, but we will keep you posted. And when we do that, we expect there to be a lot of controversy, and a lot of people, Planned Parenthood, different ones, probably won't be real eager to know that that bill is on the table. So if you're someone on either side of that issue, we'll welcome your input. But the people that sent me to Juneau know that's my position, and they chose to send me in overwhelming numbers. So I'm going to stand on the side of babies.
Okay, and there we have a couple of comments. Some diverse comments. Tim Robinson says, how many children have you adopted?
I have not adopted any, Tim, but my life's not over. But I have children who have adopted. I have, I'd have to do the math. I have 3 grandchildren who are, no, I have 1, is it 3? I think it's at least 3 out of 8 that are not my natural blood grandchildren.
Okay. And then Polita Richard says people can do whatever they want. Just stop making us that don't agree with it pay for it.
The public funding, actually that is something that even the federal courts, even though Roe versus Wade is out there, is that can be restricted, but in Alaska that hasn't been successful.
And people can't do whatever they want. We have the laws that restrict personal action all the time.
Right.
I can't speed. I
But
can't
actually,
run a stoplight, stop light.
I actually have
I
to I have to disagree with that one when it comes to abortion, because you say a woman can do whatever she wants. Should she be able to kill a baby? No.
Well,
I don't think
that's
a
what I'm
woman.
saying. People can't do whatever they want.
I know, but
We
I
have
think
laws
he was
against-
implying.
He was
that
implying that people can do whatever they want. No, people can't do whatever
well, he was
they want.
implying a woman can do whatever he wants, just
Right.
don't pay for it. Well, I say in that case, no, if it's killing a baby, it's not okay.
We have other comments, so let's move on to other comments if we
Okay.
may.
Oh, but by the way, while we're talking about, just because when you hear that SJ 13 is up or anything else, for instance, okay, who knows what the bill number is for the motor fuel tax, for instance?
I believe it's SB 157. It may
Or
not
whatever.
be SB 57.
Amy, Lisa, could you hold this in front of the camera? This is really, really handy. So you make sure you've got it in there where it shows. Because you can text that number 559-245-2529, and you just type in the bill number. So in the example they give there is HB1, but if your SJR 13 was the constitutional amendment regarding abortion that we were just talking about, if you text it to that number, whenever there's any action, a hearing scheduled, public testimony scheduled, you'll get a little pop-up on your phone. And there will be instructions where you can disenroll anytime you want, so it's not too obnoxious. And a lot of these bills, there's not that much activity, so it's not like you're going to be getting 20 texts a day. It might be 1 text every 2 weeks on that bill. So thank you. Again, it's 559-245-2529, and you want to type that number in this. She will type that number in the comments too, so you have it. But it's very handy if there's a particular bill that you're interested in. Maybe you're really interested in hemp. You type in SB 171 to that phone number,
Nobody's
and
interested in
you would get any
Actually,
action that takes place.
What was very interesting, speaking of hemp, is today in Senate Resources, the director of the Division of Agriculture said that between people who want to grow hemp, retailers, and manufacturers, they've had over like 1,200 inquiries or people that actually want to get started. The majority of that being retailers, but that was pretty interesting. Brad, can I read some other?
Please.
So Brad, good is I apologize if I mispronounce your name, but I think it's Goodgel, says Powerball would also help the education department budget.
Well,
we have
the governor is talking about a lottery. There's also Senator Bishop had a bill, the education raffle, where
passed.
you can participate and we had just had winners not too long ago.
We did.
That's as you apply for your PFD. So, yeah, those options are being considered. I have, some concerns with how far and what might happen with some of that, but yeah.
Katie Boat says, miss seeing Senator Shelley Hughes as chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee.
Well, I'm missing having you attend the Judiciary Committee meetings when I was chair, Katie. Thank you. Katie was part of the process when we worked on the criminal legislation repealing SB 91 through various bills, and specifically working on bills to try to curb the problems, the horrendous problem we have with sexual assaults and sexual crimes. There's more work of that coming from the governor's office. I'm not aware that there are any hearings yet scheduled for any of that important work. I will say, just while we're talking about judiciary, there were, despite what happened and the shift in power and the reorganization that occurred and the hit that I took in my office hit, I will say that I'm very grateful that a number of things that I've been very outspoken about and really pushing and in many ways leading the last couple of years, those efforts are going forward. So I'm pleased with that. One of them is the recidivism reduction effort. Representative Kopp and Senator Coghill are really, I think, going to help lead that forward. So I'm very pleased about that. The read by 9. In fact, look right here. Is this showing, Lisa? Can you see the word read?
Yes.
Yeah. So actually, I got this at a Colony Christmas at the Matthew Borough building at the Bazaar. And because I had a bill that I had filed last year that had the read by 9 or read proficiently, very proficiently by 3rd grade, so the student can be successful all the way up through high school and graduation. And that bill is now in SB 6, and it is something that Governor Dunleavy and Senator Begich worked on together in agreement, and it is in the bill. I'm on the Education Committee. We've had, how many hearings have we had? We've had a number of hearings. We're hearing it tomorrow and Thursday. There's actually a hearing also reserved on Friday if it's necessary. We've been working on amendments pretty diligently for last week and through today, and have submitted those to be incorporated into a committee substitute. Most of them were tweaked a little bit, so pleased with that. But the main idea, and as I said on the record, that if we got nothing else done this session, that's an important thing to get done, because it's going to be a game changer for the future of the lives of the children that are in school, and a game changer as far as our future of what our state looks like, because education is only the great equalizer if a student is mastering reading and mastering objectives. If they're being socially promoted and end up with a piece of paper and walking across the stage with a diploma that is not meaningful because they haven't truly learned what they were supposed to learn, they're not going to be equipped in their adult life to be as successful as they would be if they learned to read and were able to continue to master each grade level. And so it has the potential for many children who perhaps come from multiple generations, stuck in poverty, and where they haven't been able to have successful lives as adults. It's going to allow children to break out of that cycle. We'll have fewer adults in 20 years on Medicaid, on public assistance, incarcerated if we pass this. So it's important legislation. There are parts of it I'm not real wild about, to be perfectly honest, but the read by 9 part, very excited about.
Question from Tyler Greensfelder. He says, are you in support of HB 79? And can you explain why or why not? And that is the Peace Officer Firefighter Benefits Bill.
Oh, HB 79
it's
is
still in the House. It's in House Finance right now.
Yes, and I have confession, and this happens all the time because there's hundreds of bills. I haven't read it. And typically what happens is, if it starts moving, starts building momentum, then I will start to study it. And particularly, I always read every bill before I vote on it, of course. That bill will not come, I don't believe it, if it makes it over to the Senate, don't believe it'll come to any committee I serve on. So, but it would provide better retirement for public safety. It's a conversation based on filling some of these slots and retaining folks for these positions. There are other efforts underway right now that the Department of Public Safety has, I think, a record-breaking number applying to go to the Trooper Academy, for instance. So it is one of the solutions that's being considered, and I can't really speak particularly about the bill because I have not read it. But we will be watching it, and yeah, we do have to watch. We don't want to end up with unfunded liabilities, and that's what can happen if it already happened to us with the PERS TERS. That's why we moved to tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4. And actually, we have to think about the younger generation too. With some of the younger generation actually doesn't want to stay in one place in one position for 20 or 30 years like in the good old days. They want something portable. They want to move around. So something like that, if it came forward, it might make sense to have still have a portable option for those that don't plan to stay in one place for decades.
Yeah, okay, so I'm trying to roll over the map. So Brendan Martinez, I'm trying to understand where some of those folks' comments are coming from, because we've covered so many subjects. We have comments from things that I'm trying to piece it together, and I can always tell
what they're talking about.
what it's in regards to. Katie Boat says, I haven't seen any work yet on any of the governor's bills, and the clock is ticking.
Right, the Senate Judiciary Committee has not held a meeting yet. Do they have, I'm on the committee.
Wednesday.
So the first meeting is Wednesday. Do you know what bill is up?
There's no bills up. It's a presentation about the Alaska Children's Justice Act Commission.
A report. Yeah, so Katie, be watching those bills. I would expect maybe the following week. By the way, if you're ever curious, about 5 o'clock on Thursday is when the schedule for the following calendar week comes out. So if there's not a bill that's scheduled this week, check back on the Alaska State Legislature's website and go to daily schedule, and you'll be able to look through to see what is going to be scheduled the following week, both in the House and Senate. Jonathan
Guerin says, started on the budget yet, or are we just going to spend session encouraging the use of coin dollars and reserve the budget for special session? That's pretty passive aggressive, I'd say.
Yeah,
but
I hope. We actually are starting finance subcommittee meetings this week.
And we are working on the supplemental right now as well.
Right, and the House is closing out on their finance subcommittees. I think they're starting to close out this week. So that's typically the House goes first, and so we're getting a start. The House is ahead of schedule, and we're starting early too.
You got to remember too, last year it was 30 days before the House could even get started on budget subcommittees. So we're 30 days ahead of where we were last year, in one body alone, and the House's version of the operating budget is always the vehicle. Mm-hmm. So we're ahead a little bit from last year. So Yeah, I'm going to mention too, because I went to the trouble to bring these over here, because we were talking about the Alaska Reads Act right there, and there was something said on the record that our students, as far as SAT and ACT scores in Alaska, are right in the middle of the pack as far as national average, which is great. But my question on the record is, yes, but how many students are taking that? Aren't those the students that attend to be the high achievers that are planning to go to college? And so if we're in the middle of the pack and it's just our high achievers, is that really something we should be bragging about? Well, allow me to show you that there are a number of states that 100% of their students, 100% of the students have to take the ACT test in high school. And
Amy,
SAT.
Lisa, can you hold this up?
SAT and ACT.
This is ACT.
That's
So
SAT.
see the red bar? That's Alaska. So 38% of our students take the ACT, and we're in the middle of the pack where other states have 100%. So when you have students of all diverse backgrounds and taking it in a state, and then you're only having your high achievers, the fact that we're in the middle of the pack is not particularly impressive. That's ACT. Here's SAT. Similar. We 41% of our students take it a little bit higher, and so if we're in the middle of the pack compared to states that have larger percentages, it's really, I'm glad we're not behind the middle of the pack. I will say that, and I know there are pockets of excellence and some phenomenal teachers, But when we try to use that, you have to be careful with numbers. And so that was interesting to get. While I'm holding up papers, switching subjects, I'm coming home this weekend, and I look forward to seeing as many of you that can come. I'm going to be, Lisa, can you tell the times and locations, because I'm not sure I have them. Can you put it in front of the camera?
Sure. We've got the Palmer Coffee and Conversation is going to be at the Sunrise Grill from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
That early, whew.
on Saturday, February 15th.
You guys have fun doing that.
And then the Chugiak Cafe Coffee and Conversation will be from 11:30 to 1 p.m.
Okay, so there you have it. So if you're in the Palmer area and you want to come by the Sunrise Cafe, I'll be there from 8 to 9:30. And I believe there's another meeting following my meeting, so I won't be able to linger there. We'll have to clear out. So come between 8 and 9:30, Sunrise Grill, downtown Palmer. And then I'll be at the Chugiak Cafe at 11:30. So welcome. Sometimes I get people from Palmer to come out to the Chugiak Cafe. The food the two places offer can be a draw in itself. So look forward to seeing you. And like I said, here's what we wrote on there. I'm inviting you and your friends to join me for a conversation over coffee. Your thoughts, questions, and concerns will be front and center. The state savings account is low. There's no cap on the budget. PFD cuts and new taxes on Alaskans are the focus in Juneau. It's time for you to engage and weigh in. And we will put a picture of this. We did a post this morning on it too that you can find and share, but we'll also put an image of this in the comments section so you have those details.
It's, how much longer do you want to go? It's 7:10.
Well, I think
We're going for 40 minutes.
We probably are there some hearings this week we wanted to mention coming up? I thought.
Yeah, we wrote it down.
I don't know what
somewhere.
happened to it.
There's a couple. There you mentioned the yeah. So as far as public testimony goes, and any bills that might be of interest, the read by 9 bill SB 6 public testimony will be available. It's listed for tomorrow, 9 a.m. The chair has public testimony listed. SB 81, that's also tomorrow at 1:30. That's your co-ops bill. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me back up. SB 81, the co-ops bill, tomorrow at 1:30 will be public testimony. SB 6, the read by 9 bill will be 9 a.m. Wednesday. That public testimony will be available.
Wednesday? We're having a meeting?
That's what's listed.
We'll make sure we'll put that in the comment section because normally that's Tuesday and Thursday.
I know, but
okay,
I
so
saw it on there.
yeah, okay.
And then public testimony for the supplemental budget bill, $500 million bill, that's HB 234. That's in the House Finance Committee on Friday at 1:30. They're gonna have public testimony. I know that's of interest to folks. So yeah, I will double check that though and make sure I'm not incorrect.
And just a quick comment about the supplemental bill. It is high. And part of the reason it is because of the money needed for Medicaid to pay providers that have already billed for those services. And the cost of healthcare is too high. That's one of the reasons why our state match is high. Our Medicaid rates are higher than other states. If we can bring the cost of healthcare down, our rates wouldn't have to be so high. And we've got a bill for that. Well, actually, there are multiple.
Jesse Sumner actually posted a question asking if you could tell more about your bill, about the healthcare bill, and maybe that's what you want to close with, because we're.
And I'm going to keep it really brief because speaking of healthcare, I need to get back to the hospital here in Juneau because my family member is going to be coming out of surgery probably within a half hour. So it's the healthcare incentive bill. And it would allow Alaskans to get very relevant, practical, real information as far as what the charges will be for a procedure, and also the various charges that providers around the state and outside the state charge for that service. And if you, Jesse, were to choose a provider that was below the average cost, you would get to participate in some of that shared savings. You get some of that savings kicked back to you. So would your employer, and the insurance company would also. And what that would do, it basically loosen up and get the free market principles operating, because that's what's really wrong with our healthcare system. How many of you actually, when you go, if you have insurance, have a clue when you make an appointment? You know, you'll see that bill later, but we don't shop for healthcare like we do other things. And this would actually encourage consumers to shop around. And the interesting things, there's research out there that the higher the cost does not equate to higher quality. So we would really open things up and get people looking and shopping for healthcare like they do for other things. So that's a bill that's been of ours that we had to pull last year because of until the ethics bill got fixed, and so we've refiled it. It is SB. Do you remember the number?
No, I don't.
No, we'll post that. Lisa, if you could post that. Actually, wait a minute. SB 135. I've got it right here.
135.
So that's one you could post to the. If you want to hold up the bill tracking thing again, we'll put that up one more time. So if you're interested in healthcare, text SB 135 to 559-245-2529, and if we get a hearing scheduled, you'll be notified. So I guess we probably need to wind down here.
Just one quick thing. Politatick Richard said, as far as the supplemental, he said $250 million. Actually is $500 million, that total in that supplemental budget. It's $290 million for Medicaid services alone, and then there are other things on top of it.
Firefighting was much higher.
There's a lot of things in there.
That was in there, so yeah.
So yep, that's it. If we didn't get to your question, I apologize. We had a lot of comments. Appreciate all the feedback. Please like and share, and we will go through and try to answer your questions.
Well, one of the things is you hear that the budget going back up, that probably is grating on a lot of people who've wanted us to rein in spending. So at a future Facebook Live, buddy, let's talk about, as we get a little farther down, our sunset. It's in lieu of an audit bill. We've got something, the Alaska sunset bill. We're not going to sunset Alaska, but we're looking at a way to rein in spending in a way where we're doing things very sensibly, and we'll be able to find the baseline spending that's needed. I don't agree with people right now that we've found the baseline of our spending, and I think this legislation will help us find it. So with that, is there anything else before we close out? Again, what, Lisa?
Share.
Oh, like and share the video. Remember, 8 o'clock at Sunrise Grill and 11:30 at Chugat Cafe. I hope to see many of you. And with that, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being engaged. And wake up all your friends, neighbors, coworkers, and family as far as what's going on. Thank you. Good night.